we need to talk about what's been going on with the Boring Company. As much as we love the promise of future technologies and innovations to come, it's also nice to see results. We are at our best here when reporting on how disruptive new technologies are actively changing the world. When it comes to the Boring Company, we find ourselves talking a lot about ideas that they might do in the future. But when it comes to real-world applications of what they're doing today, we often come up pretty thin on content. There's always some new Boring Company proposal on the go. At least a dozen of them have come up in the 6 years the company has operated. But with the exception of the Las Vegas Convention Center, each boring ambition seems to fizzle out and die with a whimper. Fort Lauderdale, Florida now being the latest to fall through. They haven't even delivered any of the burnt hair cologne that they sold last year. So, what's going on with the Boring Company? Let's start off in Fort Lauderdale, a city that was shaping up to become the next big project for the Boring Company. They had a problem that the Boring Company could solve, and a mayor that was very much on board with Elon Musk's vision for the future of transport. Here's the scoop. The Fort Lauderdale beach is a very popular destination for both locals and the flocks of seasonal tourists who fly south for the winter. The problem being that the roadways that link the city center and the beachfront were all constructed in the 1960s, long before spring breakers, and at a time when the city's population was relatively tiny compared to where they are at today. Just the past 10 years alone, the population of Fort Lauderdale has grown by a spectacular 40%, and that's led to a lot of traffic problems. The locals can't get where they need to go because the roads are always clogged with tourists. So, what do you do about it? Major Dean Trantalis told reporters, "We spent a lot of money trying to come up with ways to redesign Las Olas Boulevard and Broward Boulevard and all of our east-west pathways, and it isn't working. We just can't make the roads bigger or wider." The Boring Company to the rescue. Our new sponsor, Ritual, is the obsessively researched and transparently made multivitamin that helps you fill the gaps in your diet. Not only do they have no shady additives, fillers, or colorants, but their 2 easy-to-take capsules provide 10 essential nutrients to support a strong foundation for your health. And the best part, I can trust the brand because of its transparency when it comes to ingredients, sourcing, and packaging. They use 100% recycled materials, and their mailers are made from recycled newsprint and plant fibers. Even their ink is plant-based. But what makes Ritual stand out is their focus on research and transparency. Their Essential for Men multivitamin contains 10 high-quality nutrients like vitamin A, D, omega-3, and zinc that are all difficult for men to get from their diet alone. They are vegan, gluten-free, allergen-free, and have no added sugar, so they have got you covered. And it's not just vitamins. They have an essential protein range and recently launched a new symbiotic range too. And the best part, you can have all this delivered straight to your door every month with their convenient subscription service. So why wait? Start filling in the gaps in your diet today with Essential for Men, and to make it even better, Ritual is offering 20% off your first month with the code TESLA20. Head over to ritual.com/Tesla20 and get started on your healthy journey now. In June 2021, they promised to dig a tunnel directly from downtown to the beach where electric cars would shuttle passengers the 2.5 miles back and forth in an underground loop, thus eliminating the excess traffic from the narrow roadways on the surface. Problem solved, right? Not according to a recent article from Local 10 News in Fort Lauderdale that claims Elon Musk's tunnel plan may be down the tubes. Solid headline. It turns out that the newly elected officials to City Council put the brakes on the tunnel proposal, and even Mayor Trantalis, who was a Boring fan back in 2021, has changed his tone completely. I was particularly interested by this quote that he gave reporters saying, "I don't want the city to get involved any further unless we know what the facts are, who we're dealing with, what their commitment is to our city, and what are the expectations and probability of their being able to complete a successful project." You would have thought that after a year and a half of dealing with the Boring Company, that basic facts like these should have been made crystal clear, but instead it sounds like the mayor is totally in the dark on a project that received interim approval from city officials in June 2022. He sounds confused at best, which is pretty strange. The mayor specifically referenced an article from the Wall Street Journal in his interview. It's a piece published on November 28, 2022, called Elon Musk's Boring Company Ghost Cities Across America. And it's the kind of story that I'd usually gloss over, thinking that they're just kicking up dust from the past to capitalize on a headline about Elon Musk. Not that I'm judging, really. I also make money off Elon Musk headlines. Anyway, after seeing the Florida news and reading the mayor's quote, I figured that it might be worth doubling back on this report because clearly the pattern of the Boring Company's failure to close a deal is continuing to repeat itself in 2023. The incident at the heart of this Wall Street Journal article is the story of Ontario, California, which is a suburb northeast of Los Angeles in San Bernardino County. Apparently, the local council officials of Ontario received an unsolicited proposal from the Boring Company in January of 2020. The Boring proposal was like, hey, we'll dig you a tunnel between your airport and your downtown that will be filled with autonomous electric vehicles, and we'll do it for $45 million. You in? And it just so happened that these same officials had already started planning a ground-level light rail connector across the very same route. And it was supposed to cost them $1 billion. Now Elon Musk swoops in to make an offer they can't refuse. What a coincidence. So the Ontario folks were like, hell yeah, Mr. Space Billionaire, we'll take your magically affordable tunnel, and they canceled their entire plan for the light rail train. San Bernardino County officials struck a preliminary deal with the Boring Company in February 2021 for a narrow diameter tunnel filled with autonomous EVs for a total cost of $45 million. At the time, the vibes were strong. People were really stoked about this new disruptive technology coming to their little mountain suburb. County Supervisor and Transportation Authority board member Janice Rutherford told the media, Elon Musk brings that kind of sexiness to it, if you will. Over time, the company and the Transportation Authority dropped references to any autonomous vehicles in the tunnel. That particular technology just wasn't ready yet. By late 2021, cost projections had somehow skyrocketed to almost $500 million. Obviously, the pandemic played a role in that, but a 10 times increase in cost? I don't know about that. The final straw came when the authority asked for a third-party environmental review of the Boring's proposal impact, something required by state law. That's the last anyone involved ever heard from the Boring Company. They were ghosted. Janice's lust for tunnels and Elon would go unrequited. So again, just like the Florida mayor thing, I only bring that up because it just feels really weird. Like, something is off about the way this procurement process seems to unfold. And like we alluded to at the top, the Boring Company has a history with this kind of thing. We all know the origin story by now. Elon Musk was stuck in LA traffic hell and decided himself, F this, I'm just going to start digging a tunnel, and thus the Boring Company was born. They brought a second-hand tunnel boring machine and set about digging some test tunnels around the SpaceX headquarters, wedged a Tesla SUV into them, and Elon Musk was like, behold, the future of transportation. The Boring Company named their first acquired boring machine Godot. Let's talk about that for a second. We know that Elon loves to name his equipment after literary references. All of the SpaceX drone ships have names that reference work from sci-fi author Ian M. Banks. The concept for Neuralink was also inspired by the neural lace from Banks's Culture novel series. The original code name for Starship was Heart of Gold, in reference to Douglas Adams' Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Waiting for Godot is a play by Samuel Beckett. It's a story about waiting for a man who never arrives. So take from that what you will. The Boring Company quickly racked up some god-tier projects based on Elon's promise. The company was to build a high-speed bullet train to Chicago O'Hare Airport, then they'd dig an underground hyperloop from New York City to Washington, D.C. 6 years later, neither of those things exist, nor does the tunnel to Dodger Stadium or any of the other mega projects advertised by the Boring Company. They did sell a flamethrower, that was pretty cool. Of course, what does exist is the Boring Company's Las Vegas Convention Center loop. This project was completed in the spring of 2021 for a budget of just $50 million, with a pair of underground tunnels leading from one end of the convention center campus to the other, each tunnel about 0.8 of a mile in length. In order to obtain their permit to begin operating the convention loop, the Boring Company had to run a demonstration showing that it could move 4,400 passengers an hour, which they passed easily and received approval to operate their loop under a permit category called ATS, which stands for Amusement and Transportation Systems. This is the same one that local officials award to roller coasters. That's likely not important, but it is kind of interesting. Either way, the Las Vegas Loop is an active work in progress. The Boring Company has been expanding to reach out to the Resorts World Casino across the street from the convention center, and they're about to start digging a new tunnel out to the Westgate Resort and Casino, also across the street from the convention center. So, they haven't gone very far in 2 years. They've managed to cross the street, and they'll do it again, but they are going. The Clark County and Las Vegas City government councils have approved a 34-mile loop network of tunnels underneath the Vegas Strip that Boring will self-finance. Basically, they've agreed to cover all of the costs for digging their own tunnels, and in exchange, they get to keep the majority of the fare revenue that people will pay to use the loop. Solid potential for upside there. The contract duration for the Las Vegas Loop is 50 years, so in the long term, there should be a massive profit for the company. The fact that they are covering their own expenses also opens up a massive potential for running the company into the ground. Literally. This probably sounded like a safe bet when the Boring Company was owned by the richest man in the world, but Elon's massive wealth has been steadily dissipating over the past few months. It's possible that Twitter.com might have something to do with that. I don't know. Either way, progress rolls on. The Boring Company have designed their own proprietary boring machine named Proofrock, and they claim that this will soon become the fastest tunneling machine ever made. Current iterations of Proofrock are claimed to dig 1 mile per week, but succeeding versions in the future will reach 7 miles per day. The love song of J. Alfred Proofrock is a poem by T.S. Eliot released in 1917. It's an internal monologue that is said to epitomize the frustration and impotence of the modern urban man. Proofrock is said to represent thwarted desires and modern disillusionment. He imagines himself repeatedly with a woman who he's too afraid to speak with in reality. In the poem's most famous line, Proofrock says, "I have heard the mermaids singing each to each. I do not think that they will sing to me." The conclusion of the poem suggests that in his personal isolation, Proofrock will drown, as the mermaids or woman will live on unaffected by his death. Through a modern lens, Proofrock can be viewed as a sort of proto-incel, coming off with a very similar mindset to the sad boy Reddit post that would flood the internet 100 years later. Of all the literary references out there, this is the one chosen for the company's flagship machine. Again, take from that what you will. Anyway, what do you think of the Boring Company? Is this the future of transportation or just some bizarre shell company? Fight it out in the comments down below. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up today if you liked it. That is so important for getting our content out to more people. If you enjoy the content, then you'd probably also enjoy our weekly newsletter, so sign up with the link down below at theteslaspace.com. A huge thank you to all of our Patreon supporters who are listed on the screen now. You help us make the best content we can, and we really appreciate it. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.